Greetings, Coach Chris. Greetings, disruptors. We are here with Coach Chris for another coaching conversation. We are going to be talking about life as an empty nester. So, welcome, Coach Chris.
Thank you for
Oh,
having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm so glad that you are here. This is a topic that I happen to know a little something about, and definitely want to bring the conversation to our audience. I think it's a very valuable and important conversation to have. And so I want to kick this off with one of my favorite questions. Coach Chris, how do you show up in the world?
Lately, I show up as Crystal and not someone's mom.
Mm. Anything else to add to that?
Um, I am Chris. I am the exploring empty nester, and I explore literally and spiritually, inwardly and outwardly, exploring outwardly by starting to want to explore different parts of cities and the world, and also exploring my purpose and exploring my new identity and embracing. I help other parents who have recently become empty nesters post-pandemic to
Mm.
embrace their new identity outside of their role of mom or dad.
Now, sure. You said a lot of key things there. I heard the word identity and post-pandemic. Can we get into that? And
Absolutely.
I'm taking notes, by the way, because I'll be learning something with every conversation. So this is just wonderful. Let's talk about identity. I
Okay.
believe you are an identity coach.
Yes, I am.
Tell us more.
I help people explore their identity as they were called to be. Because if you have, let's say, on an average, we have, let's say, two kids,
Mhm.
and each of those kids stay home. Let's just say, you know, the cookie cutter way. You raise them, they're born, and then you raise them, you send them through school, they graduate from high school, they go off to college, the military, or out in the world. By the time that happens, that's 18. That's already 20 years. And if
Mm.
you're doing that with more than one child, you know, that's 2 decades. So you take it takes about 21 days to form a habit, they say. 21 days,
Mhm.
only 21 days. If you imagine 20 years of someone referring to you as Richard's mom,
At least that.
yes, and then we identify ourselves by how we are addressed and what we answer to. So if we're spending 20 years or 2 decades or like in Lincoln's story, a score of identifying yourself as someone's mom or someone's dad, and then all of a sudden that person doesn't live in the house with you anymore, then it's like you find out, who are you? That's the major question. Who are you? And what I do is I help people discover who they are.
Mm.
And that
Ooh.
person could be a person that they set aside for the sake of engaging, in the role of parenthood, or it could be someone new
Mm-hmm.
because we also get older. And what we desired at 25 isn't the same as what we desired at 55 necessarily anymore.
Mm-hmm. I love this. So you said you help people discover who they've set aside. That's a whole bar. Um, and by saying people, who are the people? Who are they? What do they look like? How do they know they're the
Most
people?
most commonly, okay, you can identify someone who is going to encounter um, the need to recapture their identity once their nest is empty by how involved they were in their child's life. And
Mm.
one indication is if you remember, if all of your child's classmates could recognize you on the street, you were pretty involved in their life. Um, that's just my opinion, you know,
Mm.
pretty involved in their life. So typically, someone who was a stay-at-home mom or someone who not necessarily, you didn't have to be a full-fledged, like traditional housewife in order
Right.
to experience empty nest syndrome. You could just be a working parent who was just really involved in your child's life. And I find that to be a lot common among Gen Z um, parents of Gen Zers because the Gen X, those are typically Gen X parents. And what were we? Latchkey kids. We had no
Mm.
supervision, if any, because both of our parents were still at work when we got home from school. So as a result of that, when we had children of our own, we may have subconsciously or deliberately made it a point to be involved in our children's lives. And then also with the pandemic and the global lockdown that happened a few years
Yeah.
ago,
Hmm.
that prompted a need for parents to really cope with empty nest syndrome because they had to go through it twice.
Mm. Say more. How did they go through it twice?
Well, what happened? I'll use myself for an example. My oldest child graduated in 2019. So it was a few months before the global lockdown. So when he came home for spring break, and by the way, I was already experiencing empty nest syndrome when he went away, even though I
Mm.
still had my daughter still at home, but I was still missing him because he was my firstborn. But when he
Yeah.
came home for
I
spring
miss
break,
them.
you know, I'm expecting him, okay, he's going to stay home for a week and then go back to campus. Well, guess what? That's when the global lockdown happened, and 1 week turned into 6 months. So I got used to having him in the house again.
Hmm.
And because my daughter was still in high school, so she's, going to school remotely. So I have both of my kids at home again. And then when the next school year rolls around in August, it's time to move him out. And this time he's moving into an apartment off campus, which is like a bigger kind of gut punch because he's not as on the campus anymore, like at school.
Right.
He's like
Mhm.
a little bit more out in the world, paying rent, paying bills, being more of an adult. And
Right.
you want to embrace that. You want to encourage that. But at the same time, it's like you're seeing that they're needing you a little bit less.
Hmm.
So I did have to
Hmm.
go through it again because, I got used to him being in the house and then he went away again.
Yeah. Yeah. I could totally see that. I could totally see that. Wow. What was his experience like for him?
Well, normally only because the pandemic only affected him when he was already in college,
Yeah.
it was a pretty normal course for him. My daughter, on the other hand, and people in her line of uh, her class,
Yeah.
some of them went back home because they spent half the second half of their high school career at home.
At home.
And
Yeah.
because of that, there were no campus visits when they were deciding what college to go to. So we
Yeah.
couldn't do that. We could barely do that. So they were lucky to have a graduation by the time the vaccine came out, which was, good, but it was still the fact that they didn't have the chance to, because there was no, barely a campus visit, no freshman orientation, no chance of them to experience college life to find out what it was like. It was just like, okay, the world's opened up again. Now it's time for them to go off to college. Okay, boom, going out. And they had a
Yeah,
hard time adjusting because they were used to being at home and they just couldn't. A lot of them ended up going back home because of that.
yeah. And I recall too, like some didn't even have like the high school graduations. I remember a couple of friends, kids that were graduating. We did like a graduation line, like drove up and just dropped off gifts
Yeah, the
and
ones who
things like
graduated
that.
in 2020 had that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm, mm. Well, how's your daughter doing now?
Oh, she's fine. She lives off campus. Both of my kids live in different states, so we're now spread out.
That's this is incredible. So we were talking about being an empty nester. We've talked about the kids now, they're in college. And I've heard of, is there such a thing as empty nester syndrome? Is that something
Yes.
that many parents experience?
Yeah, I actually did a video about empty nest syndrome. It's not a clinical condition.
Hmm.
It's a, but it's a reaction, for lack of a better word. It's a reaction to a life event that indirectly affects you as a parent. And the best way I can describe it is it's similar to grief because
Mm.
you are
Well,
grieving.
that's the first thing my mind went to when you said a reaction to something that has happened. Because, yeah, um, I know that grief is a reaction to any normal pattern that
Right,
changes.
right.
Yeah.
And grief is in five stages, not necessarily in order, in the same order, but grief occurs in five stages. And when my a little bit of background and how I discovered the term empty nest syndrome was when
Hmm.
my son went away to college. And to make a little extra change, I started doing Uber Eats.
Oh, yeah.
And it was a good way for me to distract myself from missing him so much.
Hmm.
And I remember when I still get a little choked up when I think about this, believe it or not.
Yeah.
But I remember I had to do a delivery to the hospital that he was born in.
Oh, wow.
And that's when I was just like, what is going on? I don't understand what's happening because I started noticing a pattern where
Yeah.
I would just get depressed. I would get
Mm.
a little bit like, he's not here. And even though I still had my daughter with me, it was just, he wasn't here.
Yeah.
And I knew that, logically, I knew, okay, he's not going to come home until the holidays or whatever. But
Hmm.
it was just the feeling of I couldn't describe what I was feeling. And, but I noticed that whenever I would talk to him on the phone or whenever I would do FaceTime with him, all of a sudden my mood would just lift and I felt
Yeah.
like I was just the happiest woman in the world. And then it would just sink back down again. And it was just this roller coaster up and down and up and down. And I just had to research what is this thing. And then I did
Absolutely.
hear about, okay, why am I depressed when my son went home from college? And that's when I discovered empty nest syndrome. And
Mm.
then I started, researching what is empty nest syndrome. It's like, and it's not something that you need to see a therapist about, even though now it's becoming a little bit more, there's a little bit more awareness coming about. At the
Hmm.
time I was going through it, I could not really find any YouTube videos about it. And the most recent one I had that I found was like a decade before that.
Oh,
And
okay.
I was like, okay, this isn't really going to apply to me because this was before the pandemic. So there has to
Yeah.
be something else because we're talking about a new type. This times are just different now. And so that's what gave me the idea after I, um, decided, after I worked through my emotions and through a lot of prayer and a lot of,
Yeah.
journaling, that there are a lot of parents, particularly mothers who have been just involved with their kids' lives as I was, who are
Hmm.
going through this and no one's saying anything. So it gave me the calling to create either a support group or a coaching to help them cope with and navigate their emotions in not only dealing with emptiness syndrome, but to
Hmm.
embrace their new identity and what to do with their newfound time. Because when you become an empty nester, uh, it was said somewhere, it's like winning the lottery, except you win time. You win an
With
abundance
time.
of time instead of an abundance of money.
I would agree with that. Yeah, because my son, I was the chauffeur, I was the ATM, I was the cheerleader, I was I was the person that would know where things were when they were looking for it. There were so many things. Yeah, yeah, I get that. You gain that time. And and then when I was faced with it, it's like, oh, you mean to tell me I get to do what I want to do? Oh, what do I want to do?
My biggest thing was, especially, it happened when my daughter went off to college. It was like,
Yeah.
it's 8 o'clock and I don't have to get up.
That part. I could sleep in a little
It's
bit.
sleeping. It's snowing outside. Oh, there's 20 inches of snow. Oh, I didn't know that.
I love
So I
that for
didn't have
you.
to get out and drive in it.
I
And my kids went to
absolutely
private
love it.
schools, and they're the last ones to close the school if due to inclement weather. And you're from the Midwest, so it's
Hmm.
like I don't have to drive in it if I don't want to.
Hmm. So how did this lead you to coaching others through this transition?
I just wanted to be able to help women and other parents, men are included too, understand what they're going through because this is something that no one's talking about.
Hmm. Hmm.
Because when we were raising our kids, even when we were younger, um, we weren't even talking about that. We were going around, walking around, we had it, acting like we had it together when we really wanted to pull our hair out because our babies were staying up all through the night with colic.
Mm.
But we were acting like we could handle it, and we weren't talking about that. So if we weren't talking about that, no one's talking about this.
Mm. Well, thank goodness that they have you now out here talking about it. I have a question for you. Um, I'm known as a disruptor coach, and I'd like to ask, what did the disruptor in you have to disrupt?
I had to disrupt my paradigm that I could not change.
Mm, that's good.
And
Say more.
actually, and actually, it kind of happened to me because ever since I became a full-fledged empty nester, and when I say full-fledged, I mean all the kids are out of the house.
Yeah.
Things that I thought, if you were to tell me 30 years ago that I was going to be a born again Christian, that I was going to leave
Mm,
the faith that I had grown up in, eh, I would I would not believe you. I would not believe it. And things that I am open to, I am more open. And I would say in part that my children have
Mhm.
helped me into doing that because when they make decisions that we
Mhm.
don't approve, we can't ground them because they're adults. They're
Oh,
grown
yeah.
people living in their own house.
Hello.
So if they make a decision, if I get a call from my son and he says, okay, mom, I want to do, XYZ, and I don't approve of it, I mean, I can advise, I can express my opinion lovingly and say, you know, what would happen if, he did that. But
Right.
ultimately, the decision is his. I can't say, no, you can't do it because I said so.
Right.
I can't do that anymore. So it's allowed me to have to accept change and pick my battles and realize that I can't control everything.
Right. You can't control it. It makes me think about the time. I liken it like this. There was the three stages. One, you're the parent, then you're the coach, then you're the consultant.
Mm-hmm.
That's that consultant stage.
Yes.
Like, and
And
sometimes
it can't be unsolicited.
right, I was just getting ready to say
It
that.
can't be unsolicited anymore. You can't say, oh, well, you can't just up and give that. That's the one thing that I learned. You can't, I mean,
Right.
if you want a fast track to not hearing from your child again, just start giving unsolicited advice.
Unsolicited advice. Yeah. I love it because he does start to come to me for advice now. One time he said he was in a situation that he didn't know what to do. He was like, "Tell me what to do." No, I can't do that. I can't do that. I can help you strategize and we could talk through it, but you have to make the decision.
Hmm.
Ain't that funny
Yeah.
though? There was a time where we had to make all the decisions. They didn't want us making the decisions. Now he come to me talking about, tell me what to do.
But see, that's the beauty of it. That's the
Yeah.
beauty of it. I mean, when you're embracing their adulthood,
Mhm.
the reward, I mean, because when we're going through empty nest syndrome, one of the elements of that is that we're worried about our child's welfare.
Yeah.
And because they're not in the house, we don't see them, or at least not, organically. I mean, I'm not ashamed. I do get on my Find My Friends app because everybody has an iPhone, and I can see it on the map where they are. But it's like you can't, when you are simply I lost my train of thought. But when
That's
you're
okay.
not,
It'll come back.
constantly, calling them and complaining that they're not calling and, just constantly worrying. But if you just leave it to God, know that God is looking out for them just like they're looking out for
They're looking
you,
out for you. I handed him over
eventually,
to him.
and then after a while, they do call you, hey, what do I do when I have this problem? Oh, I'm having this problem on my job. What should I do? They will come to you for advice. And that's I think that's the rewarding part of
Yeah.
this stage of parenthood because they're looking they're looking to you now for wisdom because they do
Yeah.
recognize
The
you have
wisdom.
been there before.
Mm-hmm. Definitely the sage. It's something that you just said. Maybe it'll come back to me. But this is so rich. And there's a dynamic shift too, I feel like, where you recognize they're no longer your baby, they're an adult now, right? And
Yes.
so now you've got to talk to them at that level because life is lifing. Now they can understand a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And
You can
uh
be a little bit more blunt.
oh, I was always blunt. Well, I wasn't supposed to be blunt. Oh,
You too?
I wanted to prepare him for all that was out there. So we had real conversations about everything so that he could understand. And I wanted him to be responsible, and that when he would make choices, they would be his choices. I told him, don't let somebody think for you and them.
Mm-hmm.
If you get in trouble, then make sure you want to get in trouble because you know that you consciously making a choice to do something.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and be a leader was it on every mirror in the house. We don't follow, we lead. Yeah, yeah, that's good. Um, I would imagine too, when you were going through the emptiness syndrome, some things you mentioned like would make you feel better, hearing their voice, seeing the whites of the eyes, right? Because then
Mm-hmm.
you got a pulse on, okay, where your child is at. Like,
Yeah.
are they really good, or they just
Yes.
trying to tell me they good?
Yeah. I have
Yeah.
a my kids know that I have a system.
Mm,
They text me once a week just to let me know that they're alive. Or I
mhm,
text them, they have to respond, you know, they respond just to let us know we're alive. If I'm not
mm.
satisfied with the tone of that text,
Right.
you're going to get a phone call. And the reason I say that is because someone could have their phone
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
nowadays. Someone could have their phone be posing. Okay, yeah, I'm all right. It's like, I don't like the way he said that because he doesn't usually respond that way. She doesn't usually respond that way. So then they get a phone call. If they're not answering, now it's FaceTime.
We do a lot of FaceTime too, even though he grown and been on his own for now. The interesting, you said some other things. So the FaceTime, that's really good. We also have always had our locations turned on because we have the iPhone. So
Yeah, that
anywhere
too.
in the world he is, I know where he is. I can see him. If he has his phone. And
Mm-hmm.
the other was because they're in college and all of the things. If you cross state lines, I better know about it.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah,
just run out here, be all over. And I'm thinking you here and you in another
absolutely.
country or something.
Yeah, yeah. My son's really good at that. He's told me, yeah, because he's at that age now where, they're getting married and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
So he's like, oh yeah, my friend's getting married, so I'm going to Florida. I'm in their wedding, blah, blah, blah. Now, there was one scary incident where um my daughter was in an area that didn't have cell phone service.
Mm,
And it was just the routine text, hey, how you guys doing? She didn't respond. And she's usually really good at responding.
mm-hmm.
Didn't hear from her. And it's late at night. And so I'm looking, I go to Google Maps and not Google Maps, but the Find My Friends app, and
Yeah.
she's not at home. She's someplace
Mm,
else. And I'm like, okay, okay. So I got I switched it to the satellite version
yeah.
of and to see what this house looked like. And I was like, okay, she's not here. So right now it's in panic mode. I mean, it's DEFCON 5 or 1, whatever the highest one is. I
DEFCON
am
5.
I am like I am waking up her property manager. I
Yeah.
am waking up my son. I'm like, look, I said, Daniel, where is your sister? And he's like, well, college kids, they stay out all night. It's a weekend, mom, don't worry. And I'm like, she hasn't responded to the text. So
Mhm.
finally, he locates her on Snapchat.
Mm,
So I was like,
okay.
okay. So she ended up doing a little Snapchat video with the time they stamp on her phone
Oh, okay.
to
Hey,
say, okay,
whatever
it
hurt.
is this day and it is
Right.
me. and I'm out here playing D&D and it's going all night. I was like, okay, you're still alive. All right.
D&D, like Do Not Disturb?
Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, Dungeons and Dragon. I would have never came up with that. Okay.
It's like this role playing game
So I
that
know
they
what it
have.
is, but I
Yes,
would have never guessed
those
that.
things go a long time,
Okay.
but
Okay.
it's just a
So she didn't even see your text.
no, because she said that she was in a location that had bad cell phone reception because their usual meeting place, um, the person who was supposed to be the game master could not get to, couldn't
Mm.
get to that location, and they needed him in the group, so they went to him.
Oh, okay. This sounds like it was serious. That's
Yeah,
what I'm saying.
yeah, that's
That's
gaming
a
on
well,
another level.
I'm glad she was well. I'm
Yeah.
glad she was well. Wow. Any other tips for the empty nester themselves or the children that have made the parents an empty nester? Any other tips?
Well, my focus as the Exploring Empty Nester coach or the identity coach is to focus on the parent recapturing their identity. Um, the children I don't really focus too much on because
Okay.
I don't like to go in with the approach that, okay, we're done parenting now that the kids are out of the house.
Mm.
No, we're at another phase of parenting.
Yeah, that's a
But
lifetime
at the
job.
same time, I'm teaching them to hang up that parenting hat and
Mm.
take off that name tag that says, Richard's mom
Hmm.
or, you know, Sam's dad. Take that
Mm.
name tag off and introduce yourself as your name.
Mm. Woo. Okay. Introduce yourself as your name, not Richard's mom. Okay.
Right. Because, and one way to do that is you can just go start switching your circle around. So like if you if you still by a slim chance socialize with parents of your child's friends
Yeah.
or that they went to school with, kind of switch that around. Go to start including people in your life who don't know your kids at all.
Mm. Okay.
I mean, it's kind of an interesting feeling when I make a new friend or I meet a new person and stuff, and I just randomly start talking about my kids, and then they say, "Oh, I didn't know you had kids," and I'm like, "Ooh,
Hmm.
okay, so you only see me."
Right. I love that. That's
Yeah.
good. That's good. That's really good. That is really good. I love, 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 love that. Awesome. Let's see. So we've been talking quite a bit about empty nest syndrome, the effects of it, and all of that good stuff. I'd love to switch gears a little bit and talk a little bit more about you so the folks out there can get to know you.
Okay. Where should I start?
My question is, what was one of the most surprising things you learned about yourself after your kids left home?
Hmm.
Mm.
The part that I'm open to change. Okay. I became a born again Christian. That really did surprise me.
Why so? Tell us more.
Okay. I was I grew up in a denomination was not that was not quite in the body of Christ, so to speak. I can go into a little bit more. I'm currently working on a book about that,
Yeah.
but it's not to the point where it's ready to be published yet.
Hmm.
And it led me to a closer relationship with Christ. And ultimately I ended up getting baptized a year ago.
I say, awesome. Good for you.
Thank you.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So it helped you fully develop a relationship with your God.
Hmm.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Let me ask you, in saying that, I imagine that there needed to be some type of mindset shift that took place as well. So if you could share one powerful mindset shift that helped you in your own reinvention journey, what would it be?
It was actually, it was when I started traveling.
Traveling. What happened when you started traveling?
It just basically, oh my God, words can't describe. I mean, um, the first time I left the country
Hmm.
alone, um, the first time I left the country alone, it was just a different, it was just a different vibe
Mm,
that was like surrounding me. Like
mm,
just as something as simple as sitting in a park,
hmm.
something as simple as going to the market, um, being around people who spoke a language other than English.
Hmm.
And it pushed me to really make an effort to broaden my language skills and learn other languages and embrace and explore the cultures. And it's like, I
Absolutely.
mean, I've always wanted to travel,
Hmm.
but while I was, you know, raising my kids, I had forgotten that that's what I wanted to do. Now, I'm not
Hmm.
saying that you can't travel with your kids. You absolutely can. I just didn't do that. I mean, like internationally.
Hmm.
Um, I just didn't do that. Not because I didn't feel that, you know, it wasn't possible. It's just that maybe financially it just wasn't possible, or I just didn't think it just didn't occur to me at that
Interesting.
time.
Hmm.
I didn't consider
Hmm.
it. But I realized that I like to explore and I want to
Yeah,
explore the world.
it's so interesting. I also the same. I love learning about other cultures and things. So where was your first solo trip and what languages have you learned?
I've only been to one country multiple times,
Oh, okay.
but I've been to
Okay.
different parts of the country though. So
Yeah.
I guess
What's
that
your
kind of
favorite?
counts. I went to Mexico.
Oh, okay.
Went to Mexico.
All right.
Um, the first time I went to Mexico City, but that was with my
Yeah.
daughter. But then
Hmm.
the first time I went alone, I went to
Hmm.
Oaxaca for my birthday.
Oaxaca. I've heard about Oaxaca. Um, my project manager, her mother just moved there.
Ooh,
She literally, when the administration changed, she was out.
yeah, I understand that.
Oaxaca. Awesome. Awesome.
So I
Now, so
basically went to two different parts of Oaxaca. So I was
mm,
I was just traveling, not all through Oaxaca, because
hmm.
it was only a 2 week trip. So I went to Oaxaca City because I wanted to explore the market and,
Yeah,
just be around the Zocalo and everything. And I wanted to have some really warm weather for my birthday. So
yeah.
I wanted to lay on the beach. I've never laid on the beach before. I know that
Oh,
sounds
wow.
so, I always thought it was overrated because I was like, oh man, that is
Mm,
so cliche, laying on the beach. Why would you want to lay on the beach?
you
Let me tell
you
you, I
messed
laid on the
messed
beach.
around and found out, huh?
I sure did, and I loved it. So I went to this town called Puerto Escondido. It's right off the coast of the Pacific Ocean.
Wow. Puerto Escondido?
No, Puerto
Puerto.
Escondido.
Puerto Escondido. Hmm.
So, I mean, I was just looking for a lazy town that's laid back. Internet works half the time, so nobody
Yeah.
will call me. Yeah, I want to go there.
Yeah. I
So
know
I went
that's
there,
right.
laid on the beach, and loved it.
Fell in love.
Hmm.
So the grown woman in me wants to know, were you clothed or unclothed laying on this beach?
Okay, so along the beach towns of Oaxaca, along the coast of Oaxaca, there is a nude beach, but I
There
was not
is.
at that beach.
Okay.
I almost
Because
stayed
you
at that
you
beach.
know
But
my followers, they want to know. Like
I
how
almost stayed at that beach, but I did not stay at that beach. I stayed at another one.
okay, like how much free did you get free?
Well, I wore a
But
bikini.
okay, okay. I love that for you though. What did you experience while laying on that beach? Because me and my friends, we always want to be near the water and on the beach and all of the things. I feel like so much releases when it comes to the water.
It took me back to when I was growing up because when I'm from Chicago and
Hmm.
we lived near the shoreline of Lake Michigan, like it would take a couple of blocks.
Mm.
And when I also went to school downtown, which
Oh,
was also
okay.
walking distance to Lake Michigan. And every now and then, when I needed to clear my head, I would just go to like the beach over there and
Yeah.
just listen to the waves and just kind of take in the breeze and listen to the
Yeah.
seagulls, making noise. I don't know what's squawking. Is that what it is? Just listening to that. And just even if the sky was gray, it was just,
Yeah.
I was just fascinated by the movement of the water. And it just kind of took me back when I went to that beach in Mexico. And only it was just more colorful, but still, it was just, I was in absolute awe, absolute
Yeah.
awe. And, you just close your eyes and just take it in and just,
I
just,
love that.
just breathe for a minute.
Mm-hmm. 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 I love that. What are some misconceptions about being an empty nester, in your opinion, are there?
One I've heard is that we're just so overjoyed and so excited that the kids are now out of the house.
Mm.
And it's kind of like a two-sided coin with that because some would comment about that in a negative way and saying that your feelings about that or there is what they're assuming that you're feeling about that is selfish because you want to do
Mm.
your thing now because now that your kids it's selfish for you to try to think that you have your life back just because your kids are leaving or all of that.
Mm.
But and then the other side of it is where they say, oh, you must be really happy your kids are out of the house now. And I can't say that I'm not, and I can't say that I am. It just is.
Mm.
It's like having a relative who passed away at a very, very old age, like over 100 years old. And, it's like, okay, so you're, it's their time, or it's like, it just is.
Right. They had a full life.
Yeah, they had a full
Yeah.
life, or okay, what's that? So it just is. It's just something that happens in life.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm happy for my children that
Yeah.
they've gone out into the world and they're making lives of their own. I'm happy for myself because I played a role in that. I'm happy for myself also because now I can focus on me and there is nothing wrong with focusing on me because it's like I've been focusing on other people for
Right.
decades So it's like I can't just sit in a rocking chair waiting for someone to decide to call me. I there are things that I have to do. There are things that,
Absolutely.
I've been assigned to do. So it's like we can't accept that we've stopped living once we stop becoming parents, because first of all, we've never stopped becoming parents. It's just that our job description of parenthood has changed.
Hmm.
We'll always be
Hmm.
parents, but in the meantime, we can um focus on ourselves. We can focus on our next assignment.
And what would you say your next assignment is?
One is to help other people navigate through this transition.
I love that. What does that look like to help someone transition and navigate through this?
Right now, I recently started a YouTube channel called the Exploring Empty Nester. I do have one video up on there. There's there are other videos. They will be coming.
Hmm.
Um, and starting with that, and then basically some writing assignments that I
Mm.
need to finish up. I've have You asked me once what was the one thing that I discovered since I became an empty nester, and I discovered this in my recent trip to Mexico.
Hmm.
I love photography.
Mm.
So I took up street photography specifically.
Oh, wow.
So I
Okay.
have some prints on sale. I have a Printify store, um, or a
Are
pop-up
we
store on Printify.
awesome?
So you can see some of my work.
Is it Printify or Shopify
It's
or
Printify. Yeah, they have
Printify?
a
Okay.
pop-up store on Printify, and it's called Prints by Chris.
Prints by Chris, and that's Krys,
Yes.
correct? Awesome. Prints by Chris. I'm gonna check that out. Awesome. Awesome. I love this so much for you, Miss Chris. You're no
Thank
longer
you.
you're a butterfly.
I couldn't think of a better word.
Yeah, that's what I hear. That's what I see. Yeah, that's beautiful. All right, let me see. Well, this sounds like, was this a hobby or a passion with the street photography? I was going to ask you, like, what, what's a hobby you discovered? Is that it, the street photography?
Yeah, the street photography. And ironically, I had a list of things in my mind of what I was going
Right.
to do once my nest was empty. And I was thinking, oh yeah, I'm going to take up pottery. Now I still want to do that, but it was
Mm,
like, um, somehow I ended up doing street photography. And ironically, I had no interest in street photography before. I thought it was boring because it's like you're taking pictures of the city, you're taking pictures of a bus. Like I've seen those photos in art museums, and it's like it looks so boring until
mm.
I started doing it. And it was just,
It was for you.
it was. And how it happened was I signed up for an Airbnb experience while I was
Oh,
in
yeah.
Mexico. And it was a historical tour of
Mm-hmm.
Merida, a historical photography tour
Mm,
of Merida. And I was going around town and he was showing me how to take photos and everything. And I was just in awe of, and I just say this is how God kind of guides you
yeah.
into what you're meant to do.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember while I was there, I was in Guadalajara,
Mm-hmm.
and this was once I finished in Merida, I was also in Guadalajara. I spent some time in Guadalajara, and I was trying to get to this neighborhood park that I've heard so much about.
Yeah.
And the Uber driver dropped me off at the wrong place. And so I was mad. And I actually ended up next to the train station.
Mm.
I was like, oh, I didn't know Mexico had elevated trains. So
Wow.
that enough got me curious. So I asked the security guard, guarding the building next door. I said, okay, how do I get to this place? He said, oh, yeah, you just take that train, get off at the next stop. I was like, okay, fine, great. I get to ride on the train. So I go on this train and I'm at the station
Yeah.
and I'm looking around and I see the most interesting setting for perfect photographs. The design
Mm.
of the train station, the tracks, and the train coming and going. And I
Oh,
stayed there for a good half an hour taking
that's beautiful.
photos.
Now I'm curious. So you asked how to get to this location. Did you ask in Spanish? Because you said you learned other
Yes, I
languages.
did.
Ashe. Oh, how do you say that in Spanish?
Um, ¿Dónde está el parque de Zapopan?
Ooh. So how did you learn Spanish? Because I that's on my wish list.
Okay. The fastest way to learn is through LingoPie.
Lingo
LingoPie
pie.
LingoPie is like if you love to watch television or movies, LingoPie is the best way to learn Spanish because basically they have different TV shows and different movies in the languages with the subtitles. And then on the side, there's a panel where you're given a list of vocabulary, words, and phrases to learn along the way.
Mm.
And you can learn it at your own pace. Like you can play the video at your own pace. And on top of that, they've added live classes that you can
How do you
sign up for an extra fee per month
yeah,
where you can get live group classes.
I love this. How do you spell that?
Lingo,
L-I
LingoMpie, Lingo
it
Pie.
is lingopie.com.
Yes.
Wow, that's fantastic. I'm glad I asked.
Yeah. So you
I
get the
lo-
1 year subscription. I think you can pay that monthly, where you can get
okay.
access to the television shows and movies. And then if you want the live classes, that's a little bit extra, but it's worth it
Mm-hmm.
because you get an unlimited amount of classes and you can choose between group and private lessons.
I love, 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 love this. You sound pretty good with it. Do you feel like you speak it pretty fluently now?
I've recently just admitted that I speak Spanish. I mean, there are depending on the situation. Now, I need to learn some medical Spanish because while I was in Mexico, I did have to go to the hospital while I was
Mm.
there. So I was staying
Mm-hmm.
there for about a month, and I did have to go to the hospital. And when I got to the emergency room, they asked me if I speak Spanish, and I told them, I said, Sí hablo español, pero no médico español.
Mm.
So meaning I can speak Spanish, I just don't know medical Spanish because it's like who really
Right.
plans on going to the hospital when they're vacationing?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Right, right. Mm.
but
That's
you
so
know,
good. This
yeah,
is
so
really
I
good. I love that. So you've given us a Spanish resource to learn another language, Lingo Pi. Do you have like an affiliate link or anything for that if someone wanted to sign up
no,
with
I'm
Lingo
not an
Pi? Like you,
affiliate,
I'm
so
look, asking for a friend.
I'm not an affiliate, but I'm sure they do have one. I know they do have one.
Actually, get us an affiliate link because I'm going to check this out. So I would
Okay.
love for you to get credit for referring that. And then I love to ask my guests, what is it could be a book, it could be a person or an experience that you had that shaped your journey in that changed your life, embracing this new identity? Is there something that you would recommend for others?
Um, well, I'm going to say that sometimes what we want isn't always matching with what God feels that we need.
Say
So
that, girl. That's a bar.
the first one the one book that comes to mind, which helped me strengthen my identity in Christ, is Don't Give the Enemy a Seat at Your Table by
Ooh.
Louis Giglio. You heard of it?
Don't. No, I have not, but I'm writing it in my notes. Don't give the enemy a seat at
Seat
your
at Your
table.
Table. It's a book
Ooh,
centered around Psalms 23,
that's one
but
of my favorite.
it is that book is so good. I read it and then read it again. That
Who
book
did
is
you
so
say it
good.
was by? What's his name?
Louis Giglio.
Louis Giglio. Okay. Giglio. Louis. Is it Louie or
Yep.
okay.
Louie. Giglio. Giglio.
Oh, okay. Gigli. I was spelling it like Leo. Okay. That's good. Don't give the enemy a seat at your table, and it's centered around Psalms 23.
Yeah.
Mm. What's the key takeaway from that book that uh inspired you?
When we talking about how we know to walk away or turn away from temptation,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but the longer we stay in it, the smaller to exit, the smaller
Mm-hmm.
the door to exit it becomes smaller.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So at first it's a big door where we can
Mm.
escape because we're always
Yeah.
given a way to escape.
It's the way out, right? Yeah, yeah.
But the longer we stay in it or the deeper we go into it, that door becomes smaller. Kind of think
Yeah.
like Alice in Wonderland, but not so
Mm-hmm.
extreme, but little in between stages where it becomes smaller until it becomes a tiny, tiny door.
Yeah. Oh, I totally got the visual on this. Like it just getting smaller and smaller. Absolutely. And then it's a more of a battle to get there. But I do believe that sometimes you're meant to go through that battle so that you can be the vehicle that can help other people that are going through similar things.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah. Yeah. That's how I found my calling. I was like, this was not on my bingo card. That's my new word for 2025. It was not on my bingo card.
I like that.
Are there any other resources that come to mind that you'd like to share?
Um, if anyone wants to book a one-on-one call with me, they can use the I'm looking for two people to offer free consulting or coaching. But I'm only
Awesome.
looking for two in exchange for a positive testimony about how the program has worked for them. And they can use DisruptHer in the discount code.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you. All right, our disruptors out there. It's about that time. Chris's voice and services is here for you. She's offering two clients consultation in exchange for your testimonial. We'll drop the links onto where to find her and where you get that. You're going to use the code DisruptHer as in capital DISRUPT, capital HER, just like it says in the background here on my screen. Awesome. Awesome. Chris, that is such a wonderful gift. Thank you. Thank you for that. Let's kind of wrap this up. I have so where can they find you? I got about two more questions for you. Where
Okay.
can they find you? We mentioned the podcast. Is there any way anywhere else they can find you, or are we going through the podcast? What does that look like?
Okay. The podcast is not there yet, but it's a YouTube channel. So the YouTube channel is up. It's called the Exploring Empty Nester. Right now, I only have one video, but more videos will be coming. And probably, it's been so long since the previous video that's up there, I probably have to put another one explaining why it took so long to post another one.
Just, just go ahead and post the other one. They probably won't even notice. But I'm calling it a podcast. It's a podcast.
It is going to be a podcast because I will be having some guests on there and I will be interviewing them along with some, like videos of, information videos.
Fantastic, fantastic. And they can
And
reach out to you through y'all like and subscribe when you go to the YouTube. Okay.
I am also on Instagram and I'm in the building stage of my social platform because I'm transferring to Linktree.
Mm-hmm.
I am on Fanbase and I will be
Okay.
more active on there once I, learn how to use it because it's new to everybody.
Yeah, it, it was a lot going on over there. I was like,
Yeah, I
okay,
got a little
there's a
bit
party over
overwhelmed. So I
here.
was like, okay, I'll
Fan
come back to
base.
that. But
Yeah,
I am on
me too.
Instagram.
What's your name on Instagram?
Empty Nester on the go. On
Empty
the go.
nest.
Empty underscore, no, empty nester underscore on underscore da underscore go. And I say
Uh,
duh because that's how we say the in Chicago.
Hello. Duh. Just like over here, we say the land. Or it could be the land, but it's the land. Yes,
Okay. So it's a
I feel
Midwestern
that.
thing. Yep.
Absolutely. And how about fan base? Who are you on fan base?
I'll announce it once I remember it. Like I said, it's super new.
We'll have it in the description for you. We'll check that out, make sure we get that in there. And then, all right, let's see. I got to check my notes to make sure that I get the questions in that we don't want to get. So, one other question that I love to ask, well, there's two. Um, if you could go back and give advice to yourself right before becoming a empty nester, or maybe even your younger self, what would it be? What would you say?
Don't worry, everything will be fine.
That's good. That's good. That's good, Miss Chris.
Everything will be fine.
That's good. And on that note, my final question is, do you have any questions for me?
What was your disruptor moment that inspired you to create this podcast?
Mm, my disruptor moment that inspired me to create the podcast. That's a loaded question. I will keep it tight and short on this. Most people know my journey in becoming disconnected from myself. I was in a marriage that was not serving me, married, there was narcissism at play. And when I became disconnected from myself, I found coaching as my calling. And I then wanted to become certified. I got certified as a holistic life coach because I needed me, somebody to show up for me the way that I was showing up for other people, because I just could not. I felt like I couldn't find my way. So I went inward, one, to figure out how I got there. Like what's going on me that I got here. And so in my war room and in my prayer time, I would I started to realize I need me. I need someone to help me. I can't do this alone. right? I started realizing I had been doing so much by myself. I wanted to be supported. And this little tiny little woman, I had been following her years before, and somehow she wasn't on my radar
I think I
anymore.
know who you're talking about. She always wears a hat.
No. Mm-mm,
Oh,
mm-mm.
okay.
So what I was experiencing and what I was feeling is like I didn't feel feminine anymore. So her coaching program is called Feminine Success. And so what she would be talking about would really resonate with me. And she reminded me of my younger self.
Mm.
And so she offered like was like I think it was like a couple of week program or whatever. And I took her program and I experienced it. And so I decided I want to work with her. And it turned out to be life coaching. And I was like, wait a minute, this is a profession? I had no idea. I had been doing it for 30 years for free. Like, this was what I was doing. And so I found my calling in that way. And once I went through the program, I also decided to get certified because she offered a certification program. So as I was doing that, I just started recognizing this is what I would do for free, that this is my calling. I just I just would do that. That's not our door, is it? We're live, y'all. Somebody's knocking at the door. You never know. I'm coming to you from a hotel room in beautiful Petersburg, Virginia. And so she so as I got to the end of that, I started realizing that I had this mission and vision that I also wanted to be bring to life. I started remembering my dreams and the things that I wanted to do, and it involved being an entrepreneur. I still saw myself as an entrepreneur. I had my own business with my ex and this vision that I had been given around it and all of the things. And so I knew I also wanted business coaching, right? So that I could also help other women do the same, bring their missions and visions to life as well. So I wanted that holistic coaching. And so as I started pursuing business coaching and my business coaching certification, Hello Seven certified business life and minds, I'm a business money and mindset coach. I realized in the interim, I need to give a voice. I need a way to explore and show my strengths. And what I'm really good at is conversations and connecting people. And for some reason, people like telling me all their business, and we just met. And so my offering was to create the disruptor coaching conversations so that other coaches could also have a way of getting their message out, and the people that they were called to serve hear their voices just like you. And so that's the invitation. That's what really bore it. And Yeah, I'm happy to do it. It's something that I enjoy doing. And yeah, so thank you for asking me that question. So if you're a coach out there, we are always, that's the criteria pretty much. You're a coach, you're a teacher, you're serving in that capacity. You fit the bill to be on the coaching conversation. There is always a link in the description so that you can get on the calendar. We go live every Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern. This has been amazing. Thank you, Miss Chris, for showing up here. Is there anything else that you would like to share and tell the people?
Uh, just a heads up about the coaching program. Um, there is a waiting list that I am building. So once I have um, everything set up on the technical end, basically like getting the links, the payment links, things like that, then it will be ready to receive.
hmm So by the time you're looking at this, it may already be there. So just check the link in the description. We'll have all the updated information for you out there. Hit her up on Instagram at empty nester underscore on underscore da underscore go. You can find her on fan base as well as her YouTube channel. The
Exploring
exploring
empty
empty
nester.
nester. Absolutely. Sometimes I can't read my own handwriting.
That's okay.
Well, it is our time. We thank you all so much for tuning in. Please leave any comments or questions that you have. She and I will both be in the comments in the comment streets. We thank you for tuning in. Tell us what resonated with you. Tell us what questions you have. Push back if you got an opinion about something that's been said. We want to talk about it. That's what we do around here. We have these conversations. Until next time, I want you to take good care of you.